Apologies, distance learners, you just missed my speech. But we're going to start off here. This is the time that sustainability aspects of the project are put to the test. So the good intentions at the beginning, can they still be achieved? So again, we built them into the project, we've written them into our business plan, we've started to build our culture. Can we still actually stick to this? Okay, and this is a big test. Again, quite often in project management, sustainability is so loosely tagged onto a project that when the project starts to become difficult and finance becomes difficult, the first thing that we do is we lose these sustainability aspirations. People view it sometimes as a nice to have rather than an essential. So hopefully by building it into these plans we'll help make it essential. So how can we still kind of keep that going? How can we keep that idea going? So in the last few lectures we've looked at this. Today we're going to concentrate on its execution. This is where the most effort needs to be focused, of course, because this is probably the longest part of your project. In order to assure successful project outcomes, or in this case, sustainability outcomes. Okay. So the recommended effort for successful outcomes. This comes from the Project Management Institute, PMBOK, the body of knowledge, if you like. And this is what they suggest. Planning initiation stage, about 5%, the planning, 25%, monitoring and controlling, which we'll look at next week, which is ongoing, and then predominantly execution. So that's where we're working today. 50% of your effort needs to go into this long-term, the actual planning, actual execution of the project. So what does that mean? Well, if you remember, we talked a little bit about how every project could potentially be a sustainable project, okay? Even if the outcomes aren't seen as sustainable. And we can do that mainly through our actual delivery. So we're going to touch on that, what we can do with communications. Communication is one of the most important jobs of a project manager, okay? Not filling in checklists and doing budget reports, communicating between you and your team, between you and your project board, between you and your stakeholders. It's critical. So the project team are becoming increasingly geographically dispersed. So the challenge at maintaining this team that we talked about, this culture, when your team are in the same room, is becoming much more important at the moment. People are starting to understand that. And also trying to understand intercultural project management. Okay, so if you've got a dispersed team and team from people from different countries, different cultures, different ways of understanding the world technology, it's something that you've got to start thinking about. One of the most important factors in good project management is the distribution of good information at the right time to the right people in the right format. It's also one of the most difficult things you can do. And I think we talked early on in one of the seminars and I said, when you're talking to people, when you're selling them the project, when you're selling them anything, you need to talk to them in a different way. Okay? You don't talk to everybody in the same way. So if you're trying to sell sustainability to a financial guy, you don't talk about sustainability, you talk about money, cost savings, opportunities. When you're talking about it to a stakeholder, a member of the community, you talk about it in social benefit, in carbon reduction, in improvements to health and well-being. So when you're communicating, you've got to think about how you talk to people. Sustainable communications. Okay, well, how we share communication can be different, paper or digital. Okay, it's one thing that we're starting to consider more and more. Some people will say, actually, print is better. Yeah, it's much better for the environment. Using paper is great. Some people will say, Dr. Spock using his iPad is probably the better way to go. The truth is, neither are right. Okay, you could do a life cycle analysis on the energy that goes into making paper versus iPads, and you can come out with anything as you like, to be honest with you. It's so subjective. The point is, you need to use the most appropriate source of information. So the most common answer is that print kills trees and that paper manufacturing is a massive user of energy. So we must go with digital. Hang on now, print is greener because trees are renewable. Computers use energy throughout their lifetime and contain toxic wastes. As I said, they both come out about the same when you really look at them. Both need to become more sustainable. The use of the resource which offers the greatest benefits to the project, I would argue, is the most sustainable. Okay? So not one or the other. Interestingly enough. Social media, how we can allow the project team to extend its reach and resources available for little or no cost. And there's a lot of work going on at the moment looking at social media in project management, which I find fascinating because I use social media anyway. So this idea that we don't necessarily need to all communicate via email and phone calls and flights and all the rest of it, we can actually start to build a community of practice a community of work, a project, a team via social media, and why not? There are lots of different tools out there. There are customer relations management tools, email marketing tools, web analytics, and the traditional social media. And more projects are starting to use these approaches. In the last project I worked on, we didn't use a social media stream as such, but we used a digital room for all of our documents. So all of our project documents were uploaded in a digital form on a digital room, which we could access from anywhere in the world, and we could also talk to each other through that portal. So I could be online reading a report, I see that somebody else pops up online. I need to speak to them about this particular issue. I could instant message them in real time, and we could work on the document and talk about what we were doing. Much more efficient the old way of trying to get them on their phone and they're not in the office, so you try them on their BlackBerry and they're driving, so they have to pull over. And you see what I mean? It's a much speedier way of working, and also a much more sustainable way of working, I would argue, because you're not having to use as much resources to communicate. So the use of social media is a very interesting thing. It allows us to change the paradigm and address challenges in a different way. Social media have taken root in project management, relate to change practice. Traditional project management focus on managing the inputs of one project without the goal of scheduling. We now focus on managing the processes of the project. Collaboration. We actually manage the people during the actual project process, and that means we need to communicate with them in real time where possible. Social media tools are often being introduced and adopted from the bottom up as well, rather than the top down, because people tend to use social media anyway. So a lot of teams are starting to use social media. You guys probably have actually. When you were put into teams by Robert, okay, to do your thing, I suspect a lot of you have started to communicate via Facebook groups, or maybe via other means such as that. And that's not because we've mandated it, it's because you've used whatever tool is most appropriate to the way that you work. And we see that in universities with students nowadays. We give everybody emails. You guys probably aren't so bad as the undergraduates, but the undergraduates do never use their emails. They turn up in the wrong place. Say, where were you? I sent you an email. We don't read emails. Well, how do you know what's going on? We use Facebook. Okay, well, that makes it difficult for people like us because we can't have all of our undergraduate students on our Facebook account. Because that looks a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Yeah, me with a load of 18-year-olds on my Facebook account. And nor would we want to. But the point is, it needs to be driven from the bottom up. Okay, these tools already exist in our day-to-day life, so why don't we introduce them into our day-to-day work? And I think that's something that's happening more and more. So from the sustainability point of view, the use of social media tools can negate the need for travel, so removing the need for emissions. There can also be a reduction in the physical resources such as paper and waste associated with pins, printing and all the rest of it. When we had that project I was talking about before, where we had our e-room, I always used to get really annoyed because we had our e-room where we could put all of our documents up in real time, keep it working, but we also had a store of physical documents that duplicated the documents online. And I used to think, well, what's that for? So I had a file called the key document file which had stenciled on, and every week one of our secretaries would take that away and she'd download all of the updated files that we'd updated online, and she'd print them out and she'd put them in this key document file and put it back on the shelf. And that would happen every week, and I would never open it. And nobody else would ever open it because it was all online. And when I asked her, I said, why are we doing this? For this reason.
Wrong question.
I said, why are we doing this? Because everything goes down. Well, the reason was, I mean, the system, doesn't go down. It's one of these systems that's triple redundancy. It's in the States somewhere on a server. But the reason was because the project management body of knowledge says that you must have a key document file. Okay, so we're not doing this because we need it. No, we're doing it because the body of knowledge says that we must have a key document. Okay, right. So basically, the amount of time and effort that went into maintaining this redundant system, let's just think a little bit out of the box. You don't need to do what the project management body of knowledge tells you to do. One of our students has just finished his thesis on this, and he looked at the Project Management Institute's certified project managers and project failure. And he actually found that some projects were failing because we were using the PMBOK. Okay? So when a project was starting to fail, there were problems with it. What would happen? The project manager would say, oh shit, what do we do now? It's starting to fall apart. What does the book say? The book says we do this, let's do that. And it doesn't always work. They weren't using their initiative. They weren't actually using what they thought on the ground. And the reason was they were trying to offset their risk. Okay? If it goes wrong and I've made a decision, that's on me. If it goes wrong and I've done what the book says, it's on the book. It's not on me. Okay? And that's an interesting kind of insight into some of the issues that we're dealing with here. Okay? Your people, use your brains. project management software becoming much more prevalent at the moment. You'll be familiar with things like MS Office maybe and tools like that, but these smart tools are becoming more common. Tools like Zoho and Basecamp. These are tools where people can work in real time. They can create Gantt charts, create schedules, assign tasks, share documents in real time. Building information modeling, I guess, or management is a similar tool to a degree, allowing that real-time asynchronous connection to people. So project manager software can be used to reduce the need for transportation to meetings and physical copies of every document that you've ever had. I don't know if I'm going to talk about it later, but I'll say it here. One of the reasons why this is becoming more popular is come from the IT industry quite a lot, project management in IT. And the reason is, you want the best people possible to work on your project, don't you? Of course you do. You want the best engineers, the best people to work on your project. What if that best engineer, the best coder for your project is in India? Your project's in the States. The best guy for user interfaces in the UK. How does that work? Okay? Traditionally, we wouldn't have that project team together. We wouldn't be able to get them together, or cost us a fortune. But now we can do that. We can run projects in real time across countries using such software such as this. And I would argue that's a much more sustainable way to work. Again, because we're negating transport, but we're also getting the best people for the job, so there's another kind of incentive there. So project management software can be extremely complicated. Autodesk's Buzzsaw, so Autodesk, a company that make many construction kind of interfaces. They make building information modeling interfaces. But they also have this Buzzsaw system, which again allows people to be on site, with the construction managers to be on site with a laptop in real time. The plans can change. If there's an architect working in their office, the plans can change in real time, be updated in real time, and you can actually watch it happening. So gone are the days where we'd be standing on site saying that's not right there. We can contact the architect, you can change it. In real time, we can have it in front of us and we can then build it. Okay? And that's something that's starting to become more prevalent now. Back in the day, we'd have to go back into the office, we'd have to contact the architect to do their work, ship out these drawings, then we get the drawing to go to site. Time is money. We need more money because we're being more sustainable. We need the money for kit to a degree. So these project management softwares are kind of changing the way that we work. The current move of the construction industry towards the adaptation of BIM is signaling this move away from traditional project silos. So again, in construction and in other industries too, we have this problem where we have builders, we have architects working, we have engineers working, we have construction teams working. Everybody works in isolation. Okay? Nobody works together, and then they all get together every now and then, maybe once a month for a design team meeting, and then they all disperse again and they work in their little silos. And so the final project isn't particularly integrated in the best way it can be. It's a compromise to a degree. So we're trying to use these project management software tools such as BIM, which is why we've got the BIM students with us, to try to optimize this and try to think of new ways of working. There are also numerous online-based systems. Basecamp. It allows members to collaborate and communicate via email, instant message, video conferencing, real-time sharing of files and tasks. There are many tools which we can use, like Skype or Google Voice as well. The university uses Microsoft Communicator, and the Open University, who I work for as well in some capacities, has this system called Microsoft Link. And so wherever you are, you have one phone number. Wherever you are in the country, it will come through to your computer or your mobile or your home phone, wherever you are. So it's just trying to kind of speed up communication. But you have to make sure this is implemented correctly. That's one of the big dangers. When we had Microsoft Communicator installed at the university about 3 or 4 years ago, it was first installed on our PCs, and there was a big message that came out that said, "Congratulations, now everyone can video conference each other. You can talk to your colleagues online. You don't have to travel." Oh, that sounds really cool. Okay, let's have a look at this. Hang on a minute. You can only use it on campus. So I could only speak to other colleagues if they were on campus. So well, I don't want to do that. I'll go to a coffee shop or I'll walk to their office. So it was a completely useless tool. And now we can talk outside the university, thank God, but nobody uses it anymore because in the meantime we all started using Skype. So it was really poorly implemented systems. So you have to make sure you use these technologies appropriately, and not just for the sake of it. So when it comes to travel, the conversation now is just not about the environmental impact. Okay, so trying to get your team to meet once a week from all over the country to have design team meetings. It's useful for you to get together, sure, but you don't necessarily need to do this all the time physically. There are certain times when you have to see the whites of the other person's eyes sitting in front of you. Okay? You're negotiating a deal, you need to see what they look like, their body language, you need to be in the same room. But for many of the decisions we make, we don't need to be in the same room. This is not just about sustainability, it's also about costs, okay? Reducing costs. Again, one of the projects I worked on, our lawyers were based in London, Trowers and Hamlin in London. Our project was in the northeast. So we'd be paying these lawyers to sit on the train for 4 hours to come to a 2-hour meeting, to sit on the train for 4 hours back to London. Did they charge us for the 2 hours that they were in the meeting? Of course not. They charged us for the full day. Okay, so we're paying for 8 hours worth of work for them sitting on a train. Perhaps they're working on the train, perhaps not, we don't know. But there was no need for them to come once a week for a 2-hour meeting, which we probably could have had via a different way. But at that time, we didn't have any other means of communication other than telephone or face-to-face. So it's about kind of trying to save money as well through video conferencing. And video conferencing systems, they are getting better. We manage our master students now via Skype. So if you guys return back to China or return back to your own country, we'll Skype call you. And we find it works very well here, okay? It does work very well. I'm Skyping, I've got a student at the moment who's looking at corporate social responsibility in Ghanaian mines, gold mines. And I Skype him every fortnight on a Wednesday, and he's sitting there in his gold mine in Ghana, with a big, in his site hut with his hat on, with a big picture of the gold mine behind him. And it just blows my mind every time that we're discussing this guy sitting in Ghana, do you know what I mean, in a gold mine. I really wish the university would fly out to make me meet him face to face, of course, but that's not going to happen. Excuse my kids. Take after the dad. So there are lots of options out there. They're getting better and better. GoToMeeting. You can go through a PowerPoint presentation as if you're sitting in front of them. I could deliver this Prezi now virtually. You could all be in bed if you wanted to. I could be delivering the same Prezi in real time, online. I'm not, I'm not suggesting that's what we do. Okay. You can either see the other participants or you can basically disappear off. And again, I've been in meetings where we've got these big video conferencing systems. We used to have a system with a little camera in the table. It was really weird though, because that camera would move. So the person on the other end would have a joystick. And you talked, they could move the camera and look at you, then somebody else talked. It was always a bit weird. But most of these barriers, most of these things, there are no technical barriers to what we can do, potentially, but there are cultural barriers. Okay? It's just getting our minds around this way of working, this way of communicating. Even the government's getting in the idea. It's quite famous. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California. I still can't believe we can actually say that without laughing. He was actually known as being one of the most sustainable politicians in America. Can you believe it? Some of the really forward-thinking policies he brought into California. People were holding him up as, you know, what was it? I don't know, the terminating climate change, all the rest of it. But basically, what he did, one of the things he did, he installed video terminals and good quality video conferencing software in all of their state offices. And he did it partly because he wanted to kind of reduce carbon, but mainly because he wanted to reduce the time spent in travel by the employees. Californian traffic is notoriously bad, okay? And so one of the reasons he did that is because he found out that people were spending so much time just traveling from office to office and office. So we installed a very decent system to try to cut that down. And I've got a video which I'll show you in the seminar, perhaps, of the, have you seen these video conferencing robots? So now there's these robots. I'm not sure whether we'll use them. So it's a little robot with a camera on its head and a video screen. And so I couldn't be here now. This robot would be here with my face on it, and I'd be zzz, I could look at you. Zzz. But some companies in the States are using that. And I'll show you the video. It's a bit weird. But the point is, there are other ways of communicating other than just kind of flying out and meeting each other face to face. And increasingly, you'll be asked to use those technologies. Okay, what about Lean? What about Lean? Well, Lean is a methodology developed by Toyota, primarily in Japan. A methodology of maximizing customer value, minimizing waste, optimizing products and services. And it can be used not just for reduction like in cars, but also for services. There are Lean techniques that are being used in some local authorities for streamlining the way that they do their operations. So in order to achieve sustainability in a project, we need to reduce waste, of course, reduce efficiency in terms of systems and processes. So maybe a Lean methodology is one way which we can do that. So the core idea of the Lean thinking methodology is to maximize customer value whilst minimizing waste. Simply put, we need to create more value with less resources. So a Lean organization understands customer value and focuses on its key processes to continuously improve them. The ultimate goal is to produce perfect value to the customer with only the minimum amount of resources that you use. No waste, okay? Zero waste. You're trying just to get the materials that you need and nothing more. So eliminating waste along the value stream is quite important. So we need to create processes that need less human effort, less space, less capital, fewer defects compared with traditional systems. Companies are able to respond to changing customer desires very quickly, and information management becomes simpler and more accurate. I'll take you through an example in a minute. So to accomplish this, what lean thinking does, it changes the focus of management from optimizing separate technologies and assets to optimizing everything, the whole flow. So it's kind of a holistic view of a process or a service, okay? Trying to look at every step, a bit like a life cycle assessment in a way. Trying to look at every step and reducing any kind of extra waste, extra time, anything at each particular stage. And it's based on this concept, this Japanese concept of the 7 mudas. And when Toyota kind of developed this system, what they looked at was where were they using extra resources where they didn't need to throughout their processes. And they found one was in overproduction, producing too much, waiting, transporting parts from one to another, inappropriate processing, unnecessary inventory, unnecessary excess of motion and defects. And we'll take each one through because it'll give you an example of the lean methodology in action. So overproduction, that means producing an item for a process before it's actually required. Okay? So having a lot of stock of something that you don't actually need at the moment, sitting there. Sorry?
Just in time.
Yeah, just in time is what lean is all about. So it's costly to a process if you've got too much stuff around. It can inhibit the smooth flow of materials or services, lead to degradation in quality and productivity. So essentially, if you're building a car, it's like having a big stack of wheels before you've built the rest of the car, just sitting there taking up space, okay? Taking up waste, deteriorating every day as they're just sitting there. So lean is all about just in time, not producing that element until the moment that you need it, okay? Waiting. Waiting occurs if goods or services are not moving or being processed by the system. Waiting can be caused by bad material flow or long distances between operations. So you've got your tyres in a warehouse over there. You've just built your car over here. You need, right, it's time to get the tyres. You have to go and get the tyres from this place here and then bring them to this place here. Lean is all about trying to reduce that, okay? Trying to reduce that, which is why we have these systems in automotive design where we have the cars, of course, constantly moving on these conveyor belts. So they're constantly moving from one section to another, and all the materials they need are just at arm's reach and all the rest of it. So it's all about trying to minimize waiting. You're not waiting for an element to get to you. This is kind of starting to move to the construction industry and things like that now, where we're starting not to have the old days where we move stuff in and sit it in a compound and just take it out where we needed it. We're making sure deliveries, and this is a project management issue, are scheduled on time at the right time, exactly when you need them. Third muda, transporting. So moving products between processes, which incurs costs, of course, and adds no value to the operation. Excessive movement and handling can also lead to reduced quality through handling damage. So again, if you think about cars, they're on this production line, and they've got this system where the guys don't even have to bend down to pick up the materials. They're all there. Everything's at the right height. The conveyor belt moves, and so if they're working underneath the car, it'll go up, and they just step in and they just do their bit and it comes back down again. It's all very smooth flowing, and that's the whole point. All very zen, I guess, appropriately. Inappropriate processing. So when a process uses expensive or unnecessary high precision equipment, we're using smaller, cheaper equipment will be sufficient. So making sure that our machinery that we have is up to the task and nothing more. Okay. Unnecessary inventory, which is similar to overproduction. So excessive inventory makes people feel safe because you've got lots of things. So you've completed your cars, and then they're all sitting there on the lot. And that costs time, costs money to have them just sitting there doing nothing, and cause problems. It makes you feel safe though because you've got enough cars to deal with any demand, and it can result in a decrease in operating performance though. It takes up all the workspace. So again, just trying to produce only the amount of cars or whatever it is you need at the right time. Unnecessary excess or motion. So waste connected with the human-machine interface, as seen in bending, lifting and stretching, etc. So as I said, in the car production system, having everything at the right level rather than having to move around it. Defects have a direct bottom line, so trying to improve quality, trying to reduce defects. And all of this kind of goes into sustainability, of course, because the less you're transporting, the less energy you're needing, the less defects, the less raw material you're needing to replace those systems. And you're also streamlining costs, which is working towards economic sustainability. So sustainability and lean are complementary. They're one and the same thing in my view. For example, elimination of waste is something you're trying to do in lean, sustainability. Decrease potential for pollution and spills because you haven't got kit lying around in the wrong place, trip hazards, all the rest of it. Reduce floor space, less to heat, less to service. You don't need that big warehouse with loads of tyres sitting in. You don't need that resource. Reduction in the amount of resources used, introduction of lean throughout the supply chain, durability, reliability, elimination, all that kind of stuff. Less complex design, fewer parts required. Lean equals sustainability every time. So that's one methodology you can use. And it's starting to be brought in a little bit into project management thinking. So this is from earthpm.com. The guys who wrote Green Project Management book that some of you may have seen, Altman and Shirley, they have this blog. And one of the things they've kind of come up with is this 4L approach, trying to link the lean kind of ideology with the organisation and all of the plans go through it. So lean thinking is about thinking long-term, the lasting effects of our actions. And so we're trying to bring these kind of production systems and systems that are in organisations down to the project management level. Okay, so very quickly, I'm running out of time, aren't I, as usual? We'll do a Robert lecture today and we're going to go over. Projects frequently fail by stealth, okay? Problems accumulate over time and then it just fails, okay? And that's really, really common, which is really strange to me, okay? It creeps up on you, this failure. But in reality, if we were stopping and we were thinking about every step we were doing, we were assuring the project, we were measuring at every single stage, then we would know when we could get to see failures before it actually happened, and we can come in and we can make changes. So project assurance involves the assessment of a project's processes, procedure and management to provide a view of the effectiveness of the work carried out. Project assurance can be internal, it can be external, but the point is you're trying to look at your project as it runs and kind of head off any problems before it happens. So a set of assurance activities integrated with the project management life cycle. We have a look at our services activities. We have an independent organisation that comes in, reviews what we're trying to do, and ascertains whether or not we're going to reduce our risk and improve quality and sustainability. So the project manager is trying to work out whether or not the defined sustainability aspects of the project that you wrote into the plan are actually being implemented. Okay? So it sounds like a no-brainer. You've said we're going to be a sustainable project, you've set some processes in place. Are you actually doing it? Because if you're not, you're going to fail with your sustainability impacts at the end. Thanks, Kieran. I did see that. Essentially, project assurance will be carried out by an independent team, consists of 5 phases. We come in, we have a look at the standards that we have, we see if we are adhering to them. If we're not going down the sustainability route and we're deviating, what can we do to get ourselves back on track? And we look at audits. So one of the tools I'm trying to explain to you here is how we can make sure that we actually are achieving what we said we'd achieve in the end. We can do it through environmental audits, we can use global reporting guidelines, which we'll look at in the futures. There are some accountability assurances for sustainable accounting and financing, and we've got international frameworks. So assurance is a key part of project management, but again, it's something that doesn't always happen. Okay, once you've got the project running, you just don't even think about what's happening. You're just trying to get through it on a day-to-day basis to produce your outcome. But you need to stop and think and make sure you're achieving what you said you would. Good example here. How's your project coming along? It's a steaming pile of failure. It's like 15 drunken monkeys with a jigsaw. Boss comes along. How's your project going? Yes, fine. Okay? You've got to be transparent. You've got to be open. Okay? You've got to let your people build a culture of ethical standards. You've got to let people know when the project's not going right. You've got to put your hand up as a project manager, take a little chin and say, we need to actually go forward and change. We're not really kind of doing what we need to do. We need to change the team. We need to do something. Okay? Not just put your hand up and say everything's going on fine. So one of the keys to good project management is making sure that you're transparent and open. And that means creating this culture that we've talked about in the last few weeks. So just to kind of underpin what we talked about last week, this comes from an Accicenter report, Accicenter, a recruitment team agency. They say 93% of CEOs, chief executive officers, see sustainability as important to their companies, yet most do not know how to embed sustainability into their company. Okay? You guys saw that last week when we looked at culture. Okay, you came up with some good ideas, you came up with some bad ideas. The point is, you know what I mean, there are ways of embedding culture, and we just need to understand how to do that. So it's important. A good way to start then, so we came up with some of those ideas last week. Some of a good way to start is to kick off the project, ensure all team members are fully aware of the project's aims and objectives. Again, that sounds like a no-brainer. You've got to start your project, get your team together, tell them what the project's about. Again, that doesn't always happen. People arrive in dribs and drabs. Who's the boss? Who's him over there? Has he talked to you yet? No, he hasn't talked to us yet. What are we working on? Oh, we're just working on this at the moment. Okay, yeah, you need to get people together and fire them up and have that initial kick-off meeting. The meeting is the best opportunity to energise the project team, give them a common purpose, ensure that we establish sustainability at that very point. We had the golden thread, which Kaya reminded me of, thankfully. The golden thread, trying to mention sustainability all the way through your project from start to finish. So the project start's very important. Next, you can define culture in its collective belief. How do we do things around here? How do we actually go about changing behaviours, showing that you're sustainable, taking your lunch in silly little lunch boxes, riding your bike to work, I don't know, wearing t-shirts to say I'm the greenest person in the world. Whatever it takes to kind of try to build that culture amongst your team to get positive results. Again, this is a suggestion perhaps for integrating sustainability into project management practices. So we need to set the stage, tell you what we're doing. We need to be very clear so the results are not debatable. This project is going to receive this particular certification. Done. That's what we're aiming towards. We need to share priorities. Okay, what constraints? How is it going to be difficult? Getting the team to come up with their own ideas about how they're going to actually implement some of these issues. Assigning clear roles. Who's responsible for sustainability in your team? Is it you? Is it me? Is it them? Or is it all of us? Okay, making sure that we know who's accountable. And agree that. Look out for each other, making sure that we're all kind of performing the way that we should be, and revising and monitor, coming back at some point. The last thing you should always remember, everything you ever do should always be monitored and revised. You should always go back and look at what you're doing and try to improve. So that's an example of maybe how to build some culture. We're going to ignore that one. We're going to ignore that one. You can look at these in your own time. Oh God. I think this was set up for a 7-hour lecture. Oh, I thought I was going to show you Mighty Mouse. Let me back up a bit. Yeah, Mighty Mouse, there we go. Yeah, final point, we're going to do a little bit of work in the seminar on leadership as well, okay? And one of the common things that we do in projects, and some of you who work out there now, you've probably heard of the sustainability champion. Okay, so a member of the team or the work who is responsible for sustainability. And this is the common approach. The champion ensures that the appropriate representation of sustainability. There's a member of the team, takes responsibility for assuring. However, in most cases, it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because I'm the project manager and I say, you're sustainability champion. And you think, oh, for fuck's sake. Okay? And it quite happens, you're somebody who's put in charge, you're the fire marshal, you're this, okay? You might not want to be a sustainability champion, okay? So it doesn't work like that. What we have to do is work with people to ask who wants to do what they want to do. So the best way to embed sustainability is to get sustainability champions who are interested, who want to do the job. Give it a carrot for them. Look, I'd like you to be a sustainability champion, you're good with people. But what it means is I'm going to send you away some training, so you're going to get a bit of training out of this, which you can then put forward and put forward on your CV, etc., etc. The sustainability champion should also have your appropriate authority. It's no good being the champion at the bottom of the pile where you can't make any changes to what people do. And more, we have this kind of sustainability champion model going upwards. So the C-suite, as we call them, Chief Executive Officer in an organisation, the Chief Financial Officer. More and more often now we're getting the Chief Sustainability Officer, the CSO, becoming more common in big organisations. They're essentially the sustainability champion for the whole organisation. And they sit on the board, okay? So all of a sudden we've got this guy, well we've got the usual situation where I've just allocated someone with no resources to be the sustainability champion. We've elevated them up to sit at the same level as a director, okay? And that's how you get things done. You put that function as high up as you can. And I've got a little video to show you on that as well about how Interface, okay? Do you remember who did the Zero Waste Ray Anderson talk? How they allocate sustainability champions and how they build that through the process. Okay, what we're going to do in this seminars as well is I want to talk finally to kind of finish off this project team and culture bit, because I think personally my own thoughts are personally that project culture and leadership is more important than any of the technical measures that you're going to learn over the next year or so, okay? Because getting people to work for you and do what you need them to do in the way that you want them to is probably most important. So we're going to talk about leadership versus management, and I want to see if we can work out what the differences are between the two, because they're not the same. And I do believe that you're going to be project leaders and not project managers. Okay? Right, sorry, that's the end of that. I'm going to go read my Twitter stream now. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the seminars. So you can see my kids take after me, can't you? On the iPad. Got my 2-year-old using the iPad to communicate with Daddy virtually via Skype. So I don't have to actually go and see them.
Sorry, Alan. Okay, I don't blame you.